Ever felt like life is running you into the ground? Well, this is a reaction video to the 7 signs you desperately need a mental health break. We're diving deep into these warning signs, breaking them down with insights and real talk. Now remember, this is education mixed with entertainment. So with that being said, let's analyze this train of thought accordingly. So let's take a look at this video.
Are you looking forward to conquering your next goal or achievement? Is the rest of your calendar just a to-do list day after day? Is it rare for you to take a moment to look around? Did you ever stop to listen to your inner voice? Perhaps it's been wanting to say something to you as well. It is often the case that we're getting on.
Okay, so this is a hook, and it's a good hook, the hook to lure you in. The first thing I want to say is that, again, I love the custom-made animations. I've noticed that a lot of these videos have unique visuals. Even though they look similar, they're also different. So that element of customization I really like.
With our lives without recognizing that we need to take a step back. Number 1, difficulty concentrating. No. Did you forget to do that thing you meant to do? It's normal to forget things once in a while. It's also normal for your minds to imagine and wander elsewhere. However, if this happens a lot more than usual, then it could be a sign of a deeper problem. According to specialist Dr. Hamel, when you have too much on your plate, your mind tends to go into overdrive. When this happens, you won't be able to focus and have difficulty solving problems, as you may find it harder to look at the bigger picture. This might pose problems in the long run, making it harder for you to handle anything at all. Number 2.
So the concept of focusing could be a sign that you need a mental health break. Again, focusing is an interesting one because we all have different levels of focus. And as someone who is neurodivergent, my focus is naturally affected quite a lot. I think there was an important distinction that was made in this video, and this is if you struggle to focus more than usual. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing there. So if it's more than your usual occurrence. So if you have Sally, and Sally might occasionally forget things, but if she's forgetting things all the time, then this may be a significant sign.
Impulsive decisions. Are you rushing through your tasks just to get them done? It's harder for you to think of the consequences of your actions when you have too much to handle. A 2011 study by the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences showed that prolonged work hours with little to no breaks in between get you to make quick of the situation and more open to the easier option. When you don't take breaks, you tend to go for the most convenient decisions. So you make rash decisions without thinking of its possible, more serious complications.
I guess the whole thing about making rash decisions is linked to what I call, or what is called, action bias. And again, rash decision making could be, I think, a byproduct of someone's personality. But again, if you have someone who doesn't make rash decisions and then is all of a sudden making a lot of rash decisions, then this could be problematic and could be a sign. I like the fact that they're quoting studies. I think that's significant, of course. Just because you quote a study doesn't mean that it's objectionably true, but it means that you're putting forward a more compelling or a stronger argument.
Number 3, perpetual exhaustion. Why do you still feel drained and out of energy even after good long hours of sleep? You find your workout more difficult to finish?
The first thing there is, what is perpetual exhaustion? I understand what exhaustion is, but what is perpetual exhaustion?
When you have a lot on the table, there's no doubt that you'll be physically exhausted. However, this could extend to mental exhaustion. When your mind is in constant hustle, it'll get to a point of exhaustion. And when this happens, your mind will never truly settle, and the sleep you get will never suffice for the kind of rest that you need. Number 4.
Okay, so perpetual exhaustion, I'm assuming, is continued periods of exhaustion. I think a lot of us can relate to that. And again, some people who are in high demand jobs, they may, having perpetual exhaustion may be a byproduct of their profession or may be a byproduct of their lifestyle. However, I assume that perpetual exhaustion for a long period of time may have an impact on productivity and even maybe in mortality. So I think that's a really good sign.
eat and sleep patterns. Our brains work in mysterious ways. It's designed to change in response to experience. According to a study by Ray Poole and Santos Longhurst, when you're under too much stress, your endocrine system overproduces hormones related to stress, such as the adrenal hormones or cortisol. These hormones are essential in dealing with stress by putting the body in a fight or flight response. Prolonged presence of these hormones in your system can affect your sleep and eating habits. More specifically, they make it difficult for you to sleep and shift your eating habits. This is the reason why some binge eat or eat less when they're under too much stress. Developing these new habits could lead to further health problems.
I think that's a really good point. The only thing I would add there, I appreciate the interjection of a study. I appreciate that they're trying to make this concise. However, when we use terms such as, was it the endocrine system? I can't remember the terminology, but there was 3 different terminologies there. And I think that a brief definition of those terminologies may have made that point maybe not more persuasive, but it would be easier to understand what was being said.
Number 5, negative emotions. Have you noticed a certain pattern in your mood lately? Do your emotions seem to be all over the place as of late? Studies by Gordon and Mendez have shown that high levels of stress cause an increased display of negative emotions, such as irritability and anger. A person who has too much to handle may display a change in mood over time. All that pressure and stress takes a toll on you, resulting in mental exhaustion and a highly active endocrine system, causing your hormonal balance to go off kilter. You become easily irritated and easily angered. You're constantly in a low mood. You also start to display cynical and negative thinking.
We have another reference to the endocrine system, and I don't know what that is. I'm feeling particularly ignorant. Again, another good point. Clearly, negative emotions can be a reflection of, one of the signs that you need to take a mental health break. It's also good distinguishing what negative emotions are. So, for example, increased irritability, and it actually made that distinction. So I think that's another credible point. Again, I'm impressed by not only just the customization of the visual element of this content, but also, the visual shifts as well. It looks like a lot of work has gone into this, and I appreciate that. Also, the music is really soothing, which is actually really appropriate. Can you imagine if there was like drum and bass as a background? I think considering this is about mental health, the soothing music is a very appropriate choice.
Number 6, voluntary withdrawal. Do you find yourself knee-deep in your to-do list? Is it difficult for you to find time to socialize? You can only tick off so much of your to-do list in a day. In the long run, the burden of things starts to get to you, and you start to voluntarily withdraw yourself from any socialization. When you overburden yourself with all that you have got to do, it can tip the balance of your work and social life. You might find it difficult to interact with people, or you simply don't have the energy to deal with them. Your relationships might even begin to suffer, which might lead you to isolate even more. And number 7, detached.
So that's interesting. So we have the voluntary withdrawal. It's important to insert the context into that. I'm assuming from what they said that it's voluntary withdrawal from socializing with friends and family, as opposed to voluntary withdrawal from doing the work or engaging in, some type of hectic lifestyle. It didn't really make that distinction, but that's what I take from it. Again, that's an important one, isn't it? And something that you might see in other people, and it's something that someone might see in themselves. So yeah, that's a good distinction, good sign to look out for.
Self. Does it feel like you might be losing a sense of you? There's this feeling of missing your old self. When you have to handle a lot of things, you often forget about taking care of yourself. You constantly find yourself zoning out and wondering what's happening with you. You don't enjoy the things you usually enjoy, and sometimes you might feel detached from the environment and even from yourself. The fast-paced life limits your time, giving you little to no space to reflect on yourself. It's common practice to do your best. You hustle on because you're expected to move forward, but sometimes moving forward can be too much. If it's constantly at breakneck speed, it's important to recognize your need to take a step back. It's not quitting, it's not giving up. Rather, it's giving yourself the time to process.
I actually really like that point, and I think there's a few things to point out there. Maybe defining, what does it mean for one to take care of themselves? So what does that mean? Off the top of my head, for me, It would mean eating good food, again, defining what good food is. It would be engaging in physical exercise, because there's a correlation, I believe, with regards to physical exercise and positive physical health and positive mental health. It would also be the relationships with your friends, the relationships that you have with your immediate family, and maybe some of your external family. And it also might be, if we look at Maslow's hierarchy, your purpose, that you're engaging in your purpose. So that might be part of taking care of yourself. And also there's another thing that there was implied, and that's, I guess, the domino effect of hustle culture. I think that there is a culture on the internet, or partly on the internet. There has been resistance to this culture, but this whole thing of that you can work harder and you're not working hard enough. And even though working hard, I think, can be a virtue and it can be liberating, it can also be negative when taken to its extreme. And I like the fact that they acknowledge that, or I feel that they acknowledge that. And this whole concept as well of feeling detached, I think is important for one to look inside oneself and to ask that question: am I feeling detached? Am I feeling detached from myself? Am I feeling detached from the community? Am I feeling detached from the world, etc.?
Reflect and heal. And maybe stepping back could be the way to move forward. If you found this video helpful, remember to share with anyone who may benefit from it. Looking forward to reading any thoughts or suggestions you might have as well in the comments down below.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that video. I think it made some really good points, and I think that anyone who might be experiencing some mental health problems and maybe looking for some form of understanding or introspection could definitely get some benefit from a video like this.